dude's got 30 seconds.
Hey Magic lovers, we're finally here. The first of 2 videos where I make Magic the Gathering Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle decks and show them to you because I've been challenged by my wife. The first one, my deck is called Pizza Dude's Got 30 Seconds. And in that video you saw Michelangelo and Donatello waiting for the Pizza Dude. The reason why? Those are my commanders, Michelangelo and Donatello. Michelangelo, in the beginning of your second main phase, you get to put a +1/+1 counter, if you've attacked, on any creature, and you get a food token. And then Donatello, if you get a token, any token, you also get a mutagen token. So the best way to show off what this deck can do and what it is in its splendor is to show you a few cards for each of its categories and themes. Now, if you want to see the whole thing before we start, there is a link down below on Moxfield, and you can look at it and give me any and all feedback that you think I might need to make it a better deck. Now, so the first themes we have +1/+1 counters, food tokens, mutagen tokens, and I have a partial tribal theme of mutants, and then we have the things you need to make a great commander deck: card draw, mana ramp, disruption, and titans. I'll explain each and every one as I'm explaining what the cards are, and we're gonna have some fun making this deck. So the first category I thought we'd talk about are +1/+1 counters. Now in this deck, we start off with a bang. We're already gonna have a mutagen token in this particular thing, which is a token that when created, you can tap it 1 mana and sacrifice it to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature at sorcery speed. Now, that makes this deck possible because you're able to then have your tokens make counters, and you're not having to try to concentrate on either tokens or counters, which is very, very good. Now, I got 2 cards that would highlight the benefit of getting all counters, especially the mutagen token, to add on to that. And that starts off with the Ooze. The Ooze is a artifact, 2 colorless mana, that whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it leaves the battlefield, create a mutagen token for each +1/+1 counter on it. You can also tap it and exile target card from the graveyard, from a graveyard, not just your graveyard, and create a mutagen token. So not only does this have a way of destroying some of those cards in your opponent's graveyards, but it starts utilizing your token and counter doublers to be able to get your creatures big. So if you have your creature die and you have a token and doubler and a counter doubler going on, things just double and double and then double and then double, which is very, very useful. Speaking of doublers, the second card I thought you guys would love is Innkeeper's Talent. This is a 2 casting cost enchantment with that at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. As you get to level 2, then all those things with counters on them now have ward 1, and if you get to level 3, it starts doubling all those counters you put on things. It's great 2 cards to start off getting the counter things going, and then we're going to go on to the next one. The next category in this particular deck are food tokens. Now, the first one I thought of would go a little bit more of a theme. Courier of Consumables. 1 green, 1 colorless, green creature. When this creature enters, you may search your library for a food card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle it. If you don't put a card in your hand this way, create a food token. I thought, hey, if I'm going to call my deck Pizza Guy's Got 30 Seconds, I need a pizza guy. This is your pizza guy. Now, what kind of food were you looking for? Well, you can get a normal food, but I thought I'd include in this thing the food creature that you were going to get, and that I decided on Tough Cookie. 1 colorless mana, 1 green, 2/2 creature. When Tough Cookie enters the battlefield, create a food token. Then you're able to tap 2 colorless and 1 green, and you can have him turn some of those tokens into 4/4 artifact creatures temporarily. And then of course you can sacrifice a cookie to gain 3 life like any other food out there. Now, not only does this count as a food thing out there, and all the stuff that affects food affects this creature as well, it makes you another food, and then he turns them into really big, tough creatures. In my opinion, that's awesome. But also, I thought for food, we can do Ninja Pizza, a 3 casting cost enchantment. Foods you control have tap it to sacrifice this artifact and 1 mana of any color. At the beginning of your second main phase, create a food token. So not only does this create food tokens every single turn, all your food tokens are now treasure. And now you can use them to either gain life or cast creatures, or anything for that matter. And just being able to ramp like that is just so awesome. So the next category, mutagen tokens. Not only do they get them out and give you those +1/+1 counters, but we need to be able to interact with them, get more of them, all those things. So the first card I thought would be able to show that off is this one. Mona Lisa Ever Adaptable. 3 colorless, 1 green, 4/4 creature. Whenever a player casts a creature spell, you create a mutagen token. Now, it's a simple creature. Put her out. Hopefully she can block some things for you as she's out. But when anybody casts a creature, you get more mutagen tokens. Simple, easy, does its job. The next one, a little bit more fun than we know to sit there. Mutagen Man Living Ooze. X and 2 green mana. A trample. Activated abilities of artifact tokens you control cost 1 less to activate. When a mutagen man enters, create X mutagen tokens. Now it's a 2/3 creature. Now this one is way more powerful than the other one, and you don't even have to cast it for more than 2 mana. 2 mana and then get some more stuff are nice, but you don't need to. You don't need those added mutagen tokens if you have a whole bunch already stacked up. The really good part is this thing subtracts that 1 casting cost for all your mutagen tokens. So you're just able to tap them, sacrifice them, and put +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. Once you're able to get this out, a lot of the ones you weren't able to get out and do things right away, you're now able to do, and it makes this deck so much more dangerous. So the next subject, mutants. I kind of tried to make this a at least partial tribal deck because I had a few cards that could utilize having mutants being cast or on the field to be able to do things. So I tried to make as many of the creatures I had on the field as possible mutants. I didn't get them all. A lot of them I didn't get, especially this one. April O'Neil live on the scene. 1 colorless, 1 blue, 2/1 creature. She's only a human detective. But whenever a mutant, a ninja, or a turtle you control enters, you investigate. So all those mutants will give you clue tokens, which of course will let you be able to draw more cards. So it's a good thing, you gotta be able to draw those cards. But let's get a mutant that does the mutant thing. Genghis Frog, 1 green, 1 blue. Frog Mutant Rogue. It's a 1/3 creature with trample. Whenever Genghis Frog or another mutant you control enters, create a mutagen token. So you're able to utilize those mutants coming out on the field and be able to get either more mutagen tokens or clue tokens so that you either card draw or get those +1/+1 counters. It's easy, it's simple, it's great. Now speaking of card draw, that is the next category. And I have a few good cards that I personally love. I put in a couple of my blue decks already, and this one is no joke. The first one, Danny Pink, 3 colorless, 1 blue, 4/3 creature, has Mentor, which of course, if there is a creature that attacks with Danny Pink and has less power than him, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And also, creatures you control have, whenever 1 or more counters are put on this creature, for the first time each turn, draw a card. So if you get a way of getting free mutagen tokens, you can put 1 on each different creature, and every single time you do, you get to draw another card. Card draw is always important, always a great thing, and And not only that, making things bigger as it is. But speaking of card draw, the other way of doing card draw, in my opinion, which sometimes can be an advantage, are cards like this. The Reality Chip. 1 colorless, 1 blue, and is a 0/4 creature in the beginning. But when this comes out, you may look at the top card of your library. And as long as Reality Chip is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. And then, of course, you can reconfigure 2 colors, 1 blue, to be able to put it on things or switch it around between your creatures. So, being able to have that, being able to utilize the top of your library as another card in your hand, which, if you cast it, it keeps being replaced. So you can do stuff. Lets you get more lands out faster, lets you call those creatures out faster. And having a couple cards that lets you look at the top of your deck, if you can handle it, if you can put it in your deck, I highly recommend it. The next really important type of category that you need to put in every single one of your decks is, of course, mana ramp, being able to get mana out faster. And this is no different. I have chosen as my favorite one, put this in a lot of my decks, Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, 2 colorless, 1 green. It is a 2/3 creature that has tokens you control add 1 green mana. And you can also choose a background, because it can be a commander. But this one in this deck, having so many tokens come out, you have clue tokens, you have mutagen tokens, you have food tokens. All these tokens all of a sudden be able to be tapped and give you some of that mana. Mind you, you'll have a little harder casting all those blue creatures, but you can't have everything. And the second card I thought was really good in this deck would be Eleanor Gardener. 3 colorless, 1 green, 2/4 creature. When Eleanor Gardener enters the battlefield, create a food token. At the beginning of your instep, if you sacrificed a food this turn, you may search your library for a basic land card and put that card into the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle. So once in a while, you can sacrifice a food and get another land. And of course, if you do that at least once a turn, you're going to have way more land than you can ever need, and you'll be able to get all those spells out really fast. So, I love these cards, by the way. Now we're almost done. We're down to these last 2. The second to last one being Disruption. Now, Disruption is all those cards that causes havoc on the board. These will you put your board wipes, but more importantly, you can get your single target things out there. And I have 2 that will. One is one that you can use to stop your creature, and one is to protect your O's. And I use these as an example. The first one I have is Retro Mutation. 2 colorless, 1 blue. It's an enchantment aura. Flash, enchant creature. Enchanted creature is a turtle with base power and toughness 0/1. It can attack and loses all abilities. Now this is a great card because not only can you get that big cute creature that's been smacking you all this time and get it out of the battlefield, you also, if you want, can stop your commander of one of your opponents and get him out of the battlefield, have him stop just doing its own havoc, whatever the kind of deck it is. And there are stuff that's even better than this one, but this one is a lot cheaper than a lot of those. This one's a common, and something just came out, and like the best one out there is it turns it into a land, which there's not a lot of ways to get rid of that, but it's also really expensive. Of course, then you want to protect your stuff in that type of way, and of course we have Mutational Advantage. 1 colorless, 1 green, and 1 blue. It's an instant. Permanents you control with counters on them gain hexproof and indestructible until a turn. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to those permanents this turn, and then you proliferate. So you have something going on and you want to not have all your creatures get destroyed or targeted or any of that stuff. And not only that do you protect them, but they all get a little bit stronger in the process. These cards are very good. You also put your board wipes and those type of things in this category. So the last category I talk about, I call Titans. Now, not necessarily Titan creatures, which it can be, but more of like Titan spells. things that if you can get out, have more than a good chance of winning you the game right then and there. The first one I have for this one is a Ruberoid. 2 colorless, 2 green. It is a 1/3 creature. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is this creature's power. Now, if you're able to put a +1/+1 counters on this, like for example with a whole bunch of mutagen, all of a sudden all your creatures, including itself, get even bigger, and then even bigger, and then even bigger. And if you do it enough just before your turn, when that upkeep comes around in combat type of thing, everything is huge, and of course you run over them like they're nothing tomorrow. Speaking of +1/+1 counters, the other Titan I have thought that I'd include on this would be Calamavis. I kept calling him Calamitus, but that's not how you say it, but whatever. It's 4 colorless, 1 green. It is a 3/3 creature, which has each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on it. Now this one, really hard to understand, but once you get your mind around it, it becomes a lot better. Basically, every +1/+1 counter is still treated as a +1/+1 counter, but when you add for the damage and the health it has, it's basically like their +2/+2 counters. So if you have something with 5 +1/+1 counters, it is not +5/+5 to its damage and toughness, it's +10/+10. It just doubles every single counter out there, makes them all huge, and of course, once again, steamroll, especially if you have to trample out. I do have a couple of those in this one, and I didn't put that as one of the subjects, but I have them. And so basically that is the point of this deck. Get creatures out, get the mana, utilize tokens and counters, and combine them two together to be able to hopefully keep your opponents at bay and steamroll them with huge creatures. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and let's stay tuned. I will come out with another one for my wife, and then we will fight to the death. And if you have any suggestions how to make this deck better after we do the battle, please tell me. I will take any and all advice for any of the decks I put down below. I'm going to have a link down below which has all the decks that I have built so far. If you have a suggestion for any of them, I'll take them all. And I hope you guys have a great day. See you around.